No one cares good morning, afternoon, evening today? I want to talk about something that may sound harsh, but it's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever hear. No one cares. At first, that sounds cruel. It sounds lonely, but stay with me. No one cares about your excuses. No one cares. Excuse. No one cares. How tired you are. No one cares about your dreams until you make them real. No one cares how hard it is unless you overcome it. But here's the beauty. Since no one cares, you're free. You're free to stop waiting for sympathy, approval, or validation. You're free to own your journey, your wins and your losses. You're free to write your story your way. You don't need the world to believe in you. You just need you. The grind is lonely, but success, that's yours. That's your reward. You earn it in silence and celebrate it in front of the same people who once ignored you. So stop waiting to be rescued. Stop waiting for someone to notice. Because once you realize no one cares, you'll stop complaining. You'll start building. No one cares isn't a curse. It's a call to power. It's a call to power. What is it, but now go prove them right and wrong at the same time. Thank you. When we say people care less than we think, and that's empowering, it sounds counterintuitive. After all, most of us grow up with a deep desire to be noticed, to be approved of, to be liked. We're taught, often unconsciously, to perform for the approval of others, whether it's teachers, parents, friends, or society at large. Social media intensifies this even more. Every like, comment, or view becomes a small hit of validation, and in the absence of it, we feel ignored, unseen, or worse, unworthy. But the truth is that most people are too busy thinking about themselves to be constantly evaluating you. And when you really understand that, not just on a surface level, but deep in your bones, you unlock a kind of freedom that few people ever realize. Think about the times you've hesitated to do something because you were afraid of what others might think. Maybe you didn't start that YouTube channel because you thought your friends would laugh. Maybe you didn't speak up in class or in a meeting because you feared being wrong. Maybe you kept your creative projects hidden in a folder because you thought they weren't good enough. We waste so much potential not because we aren't talented, but because we imagine a critical audience watching our every move, judging us, waiting for us to fail. But here's the truth. People are not watching you that closely. Everyone is wrapped up in their own problems, their own insecurities, their own hustle. That person whose opinion you fear is likely worrying about what you think of them. That audience you fear failing in front of, they're thinking about their own deadlines, relationships, and bills. Everyone's living their own movie, and you're just a background character in most of them. That realization should be incredibly liberating. It means you don't have to be perfect. It means you don't have to wait until you feel ready or worthy to act. It means the judgment you fear is more often a figment of your imagination than a real obstacle. When you realize that people don't care nearly as much as you thought, you are freed from the invisible cage of public perception. This is not to say that people never care. Of course they do sometimes. It's full, but it's rare, fleeting, and often shallow. People may notice your wins once you've succeeded. They may criticize your failures briefly, but they move on quickly. Think about how fast the news cycle changes. Think about how many viral stories have already been forgotten. The world keeps moving for a guy. And if you stay frozen in fear, waiting for someone to approve of your steps, you'll be left behind by people who were never really focused on you in the first place. The empowering part of this truth is that once you drop the illusion that everyone is watching, you gain the permission to be bold, to experiment, to fail, to look foolish, and most importantly, to grow. Progress is messy. Great things are built in stages with many missteps along the way. But if you're obsessed with optics, with being polished too early, you'll never begin. The people who truly succeed, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the athletes, the leaders, they all reach a point where they stop caring about mass approval. They realize that the crowd is fickle and that greatness comes from internal vision, not external validation. They understand that when they walk onto the stage, most of the audience isn't hoping they fail. They're just waiting for the next act. So why not take the risk? You have to ask yourself, How many opportunities have you missed because you were imagining an audience that didn't exist? How many times have you edited yourself, held back your ideas, or delayed your dream because of an invisible panel of judges in your head? Once you shed the illusion that everyone cares, the weight comes off. You stop performing and you start creating. You stop pleasing and you start living. The absence of constant scrutiny is not loneliness, it's space. Space to become who you are without a spotlight, without noise, without interruption. And in that quiet space, true growth happens. Stop waiting for validation or pity. That's a message most people don't want to hear because it cuts deep into the emotional habits we've all developed. Since childhood, we've been conditioned to seek approval from parents, teachers, coaches, peers. A good grade meant praise. A smile meant we were doing well. We became addicted to feedback loops where someone else's opinion determined our self-worth. And as we grow older, that desire for external validation only evolves. It doesn't disappear. Whether it's waiting for a boss to acknowledge our work, a partner to reassure us, or an audience to recognize our talent, we place too much power in the hands of others, hoping they'll see our value before we fully claim it ourselves. The truth is, if you're waiting for someone to validate your worth, your goals, or your struggles, you're giving them control over your progress. Validation feels good, but it's not required to move forward. Waiting for it creates stagnation. It leads to inaction. You start to believe that you can only begin after someone gives you permission, but that permission may never come. People are often too wrapped up in their own lives to notice how badly you want to be seen. And even when they do see you, they might not understand you. Or worse, they may not care. This is especially true when it comes to chasing difficult goals. People won't always see your late nights, your sacrifices, your inner battles. They won't know how much effort it took to simply show up. And in the absence of acknowledgement, it's easy to feel invisible. But here's the hard truth. You can't live your life waiting for someone to clap for you. Your efforts must be driven by purpose, not applause. Sometimes when life is hard, and it often is, we fall into a mindset where we just want someone to notice our pain. We want someone to say, "I see you. I know how hard this is." And while that recognition can be comforting, it's not a reliable foundation for resilience. Pity might bring temporary relief, but it does not bring solutions. When we start to rely on sympathy to feel validated, we risk becoming trapped in our struggles. We tell the story of our pain over and over, hoping it will make people care more. But in doing so, we make that pain a central part of our identity. The world doesn't reward you for how much you've suffered. It rewards you for what you build in spite of that suffering. There is power in owning your story, but there's even greater power in not needing others to respond to it in order for you to keep going. You can't overcome what you keep denying. If you keep telling yourself that you're just this way or are not built for more, you've already given up before you've tried. The stories you tell yourself about who you are will either build your future or trap you in your past. You must choose them wisely. No one else is coming to push you forward. No one is going to pick you up every time you fall. And even if they do once or twice, they won't always be there. That's not pessimism. It's reality. Your life, your dreams, your character, your skills, they all depend on the decisions you make when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, and when no one is cheering you on. The moment you internalize that truth, you stop wasting time. You stop waiting for someone to guide you step by step. You start reading the books. You start waking up earlier. You start questioning your excuses. You start moving forward, even if slowly, even if imperfectly, because you realize that no one can grow for you. That's your responsibility and your opportunity. Pain is real, but progress is your job. Everyone, no matter how polished they seem on the surface, has carried pain at some point. It comes in many forms: heartbreak, loss, disappointment, failure, fear, rejection, loneliness. Pain is universal. It does not discriminate based on status, wealth, background, or ambition. And when it hits, it can feel overwhelming, paralyzing even. It has the power to consume your thoughts, distort your perspective, and make you question everything your worth, your potential, and your future. But while pain is inevitable, staying in it is a decision. What you do with pain is what defines you. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. There's a dangerous illusion in today's culture that equates pain with entitlement. That because you've been hurt, the world owes you something. Asta. That because you've been through more, you should automatically get more. But life doesn't work that way. Pain doesn't exempt you from the responsibility to move forward. In fact, it gives you more reason to do so. Pain is not a pass. It's a challenge. It's a call to rise, not a reason to stop. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to cry, to scream, to break down. There is no weakness in feeling deeply. But what matters is what happens after. The world will not slow down for your wounds. It will not pause to give you time to heal. Time to heal. That might sound cold, but it's also what makes progress possible. Because despite your pain, you still have the ability and the responsibility to choose what comes next. You are not powerless in your suffering. You still get to decide whether you stay stuck or start climbing. Progress in the midst of pain doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means doing what you can even when it hurts. It means choosing discipline when motivation disappears. It means showing up for yourself even when no one else does. There will be days when your effort looks like survival, and that's okay. Progress isn't always about huge strides. Sometimes it's about taking the smallest possible step forward. That step might be writing one page, sending one email, getting out of bed, or simply refusing to give up. But that step counts. And enough of those steps over time create momentum. And that momentum turns into transformation. One of the hardest things to accept is that your pain might not be your fault, but your healing is still your responsibility. It's unfair, yes, but it's also empowering. Because it means you don't have to wait for apologies, for justice, for closure, or for things to be perfect again. You don't need to be rescued to recover. You can rescue yourself. You can take your pain and turn it into power by using it as fuel to grow, to rise, to change the direction of your life. Pain also has a way of sharpening you. It reveals what matters. It humbles you. It teaches you lessons you couldn't learn any other way. It forces you to confront truths, build strength, and develop resilience. People who have never struggled often lack depth, but those who have walked through fire and refused to stay burned come out with a level of strength that cannot be faked or borrowed. That strength is earned in the dark, in the silence, in the tears that no one sees. You are not your pain. You are what you do with your pain. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being remade if you allow the process. That process will test you. It will ask everything from you. It will ask everything from you. But it will also grow you in ways you never imagined. So feel the pain, acknowledge it, honor it even, but then get up, take a breath, take the next step. Because progress, even in pieces, is still progress. And no matter how heavy the weight of pain is, it cannot stop the person who refuses to stop moving. Freedom lies in self-reliance. In a world where we're constantly encouraged to seek help, to form communities, and to lean on others, all of which have value, there is still a deeper truth that cannot be ignored. At the core of real freedom is the ability to stand on your own. Self-reliance is not about isolation. It's not about shutting others out or pretending you don't need connection. It's about understanding that your foundation must be strong enough to stand, even if no one shows up for you. We live in a time where dependence is normalized. People depend on institutions, on employers, on social media validation, on relationships, and sometimes even on luck to improve their lives. But the reality is, when you rely too heavily on others to hold you up, you give away your power. You become fragile, easily shaken when someone lets you down or life doesn't go according to plan. True freedom is being able to navigate challenges, make decisions, and build your life without waiting for someone else to make the first move. Self-reliance means you are your own source of motivation. No. You don't wait to be told to chase your goals. You don't wait for encouragement to take action. You understand that no one is coming to wake you up early, to stop you from quitting, or to push you when it gets hard. That's your job. The more you take ownership of your life, the less you need to be rescued, and the freer you become. It also means becoming emotionally independent. Too many people are held hostage by the opinions and moods of others. One negative comment ruins their whole day. One rejection makes them question their worth. But when you're self-reliant, you build your own emotional core. You know who you are, regardless of who agrees. You trust your voice, even when it's the only one speaking. You stop needing people to believe in you, because you've already done the work to believe in yourself. Self-reliance does not mean you never fail, or that you always have the answers. In fact, it's the opposite. It means you take responsibility when you mess up. You own your decisions. You fix your mistakes. You don't deflect or blame, and because of that, you become stronger, wiser, more capable. Every time you rely on your own effort to pull through something difficult, you reinforce your independence. You prove to yourself that you don't need perfect conditions, endless support, or a cheering squad to move forward. This kind of freedom is rare, which is why it's powerful. Most people are stuck in cycles of dependency, emotional, financial, social, waiting for someone else to create their opportunity. But when you realize you have everything within you to start, to grow, and to succeed, you stop waiting. You start building, even if it's messy, even if you fail. Because it's your life, and no one else is going to live it for you. Financially self-reliance means you take control of your earning and spending. You don't rely on handouts. You don't wait for a windfall. You learn to manage what you have and work for what you need. Spiritually, it means you seek your own truth rather than copying what others say. Intellectually, it means you read, study, ask questions, and expand your mind instead of waiting to be told what to think. When you become self-reliant, your world expands. So you stop fearing what will happen if someone leaves, if someone disagrees, or if life doesn't go according to the script. Because you know you can adapt. You know you can rebuild. You know that you are equipped, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. That's not arrogance. It's confidence earned through struggle. It's resilience born from discipline. It's about being unshakable because you've built yourself from the inside out. The world moves on, with or without you. That's a harsh truth, one many people struggle to accept. We like to believe that if we stop, if we fall apart, if we break down, everything else will pause too. But life doesn't work that way. Time doesn't stop ticking. The sun still rises, people continue with their routines, businesses operate, opportunities come and go, and the world keeps turning, indifferent to individual pain or personal pause. This isn't meant to sound cruel. It's meant to wake you up. Because once you understand that life is constantly in motion, you realize that waiting for the perfect moment, for things to make sense, or for your emotions to settle before you act, often leads to nothing but wasted time. Everyone has moments when they feel overwhelmed, lost, or like the world is caving in. And in those moments, it feels like everything should just stop, to give you space to process, to breathe, to recover. But the truth is, while you're sitting still, while you're caught in your thoughts, while you're retreating into silence, the rest of the world isn't waiting. People are still chasing their goals. Competitors are still improving. New voices are emerging. Doors are opening and closing. Opportunities aren't pausing for your comeback. That's why understanding the pace of the world matters. You don't need to panic or rush, but you need to act. Because life doesn't wait. One of the most dangerous lies people tell themselves is, I have time. While it's true that rushing leads to burnout and mistakes, it's also true that complacency kills dreams. The idea that there will always be another chance, a better day, a more convenient moment, it's comforting, but false. Some opportunities are one time only. Some moments will never return. Some relationships will move on, and while you're stuck in indecision or waiting for motivation to strike, the momentum that could have carried you forward is lost. This doesn't mean you should live in fear. It means you should live with awareness. Be aware that growth and change require urgency. Not panic, not desperation, but urgency. A quiet, steady fire that pushes you to act even when you're tired, even when you're afraid, even when you're unsure. Because while you're deciding whether or not to take the leap, someone else is already doing it and moving ahead and moving ahead. Understanding that the world moves on should not make you bitter. It should make you intentional. Your actions, your habits, your daily decisions, they all matter. They're the only things within your control in a world that keeps evolving, keeps shifting, keeps growing. If you choose to stay the same, you fall behind. Not because someone is punishing you, but because time doesn't freeze to let you catch up. And let's be honest, there are times when we all feel forgotten. Times when we think, does anyone even notice I'm gone? Or does anyone care if I'm struggling? And the truth is, sometimes they don't. Not because they're cruel, but because they're dealing with their own battles. Everyone is the main character in their own story. And while that can feel lonely, it can also be liberating. Because if the world doesn't stop for you, you don't have to wait for it either. It can start again, rebuild, rise, on your terms. You don't need permission because no one is watching that closely. You can fail quietly, learn and try again, all while the world keeps spinning. So use that truth as fuel. Let it remind you that now is the time, not next week, not when you feel better, not when someone notices, now. Because the world will keep moving forward with or without you, and the choice to move with it is entirely yours. The ones who rise are not always the most talented, the most gifted, or the most... Often they're just the ones who understood that waiting for the world to care was a waste of time, and decided to move anyway. So let this be the reminder. No one is coming to save you. No one is waiting on you, and no one owes you anything. But that's not a curse. It's your freedom. Your freedom. Because when you stop expecting the world to care, you start caring for yourself. You stop waiting. You start building. You stop blaming. You start becoming. The world may not care, but you should. Care enough to grow. Care enough to show up. Care enough to keep going. Because at the end of the day, the only person who needs to believe in you is you. If this message hit home, don't just listen, act. Take ownership of your life, your growth, and your goals. And if you found value in this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe for more real talk like this, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a drop. Until next time, remember, no one cares, and that's your greatest advantage. Now go prove them wrong.